Hello, welcome. How was your week? I'm happy to see that everyone is alright. Now, we have big plans for today. Today, we are going to read a story. But before we begin our story, let's play a game. As you can see on the board, we have some animal cards and clothing cards. Now, I will be writing the names of these cards and we will be reading them together, then matching them with the cards. Alright? Let's begin. Let me write the cards on the board, the name of the cards. Now, let's read them together. The first one, goat. One more time, goat. Alright. Mouse. Mouse. Excellent. Giraffe. Giraffe. Perfect. Fox. Fox. Perfect. And the last one, dog. One more time, please. Dog. Excellent work. Now let's read the clothing. Names of the clothing. Let me write them on the board again. Now, first one, belt. Belt. Alright. Tie. Tie. Super. Trousers. Trousers. Alright. Shirt. I can't hear you. Alright. Socks. Socks. And the last one, shoes. Shoes. Excellent. Now, let's match the names with the cards together. I think we are done with the etching. Now, let's read our story. As you know, our story for today is The Smartest Giant in Town. As you can see the cover of the book, we will be reading this book. Now, let's start reading our story. George was a giant, the scuffiest giant in town. He always wore the same pair of old brown sandals and the same old patched up gown. "I wish I wasn't the scuffiest giant in town," he said sadly. But one day, George noticed a new shop. It was full of smart clothes, so he bought a smart shirt, a smart pair of trousers, a smart belt, a smart stripy tie, some smart socks, and a pair of smart shiny shoes. George left his old clothes behind the shop. He was about to go home when he heard a sound. On the pavement stood a giraffe who was sniffing sadly. "What's the matter?" asked George. "It's my neck," said the giraffe. "It's so very long and so very cold. I wish I had a long warm scarf." "Cheer up," said George, and he took off his stripy tie. "It didn't match my socks anyway," he said. As he wound it round and round the giraffe's neck, it made a wonderful scarf. "Thank you," said the giraffe. As George strode towards home, he sang to himself, My tie is a scarf for a cold giraffe, but look me up and down. I'm the smartest giant in town. George came to a river. On a boat stood a goat who was bleating loudly. "What's the matter?" asked George. "It's my sail," said the goat. "It blew away in a storm. I wish I had a strong new sail for my boat." "Cheer up," said George, and he took off his new white shirt. "It kept coming untucked anyway," he said as he tied it to the mast of the goat's boat. It made a magnificent sail. "Thank you," said the goat. George strode on, singing to himself. "My tie is a scarf for a cold giraffe. My shirt's on a boat as a sail for a goat. But look me up and down. I'm the smartest giant in town." George came to a tiny ruined house. Beside the house stood a white mouse with lots of baby mice. They were all squeaking. "What's the matter?" asked George. "It's our house," squeaked the mother mouse. "It burnt down and now we have nowhere to live. I wish we had a nice new house." "Cheer up," said George, and he took off one of his shiny shoes. "It was giving me blisters anyway," he said as the mouse and her baby scrambled inside. The show made a perfect home for them. "Thank you," they squeaked. George had to hop along the road now, but he didn't mind. As he hopped, he sang to himself. "My tie is a scarf for a cold giraffe. My shirt's on a boat as a sail for a goat. My shoe is a house for a little white mouse. But look me up and down. I am the smartest giant in town." George came to a campsite. Beside a tent stood a fox who was crying. "What's the matter?" asked George. "It's my sleeping bag," said the fox. "I dropped it in a puddle. I wish I had a warm, dry sleeping bag." "Cheer up," said George, and he took off one of his socks with diamonds up the sides. "It was tickling my toes anyway," he said. As the fox snuggled into it, it made a very fine sleeping bag. "Thank you," said the fox. George hopped on singing to himself. "My tie is a scarf for a cold giraffe. My shirt's on a boat as a sail for a goat. My shoe is a house for a little white mouse. One of my socks is bed for a fox. But look me up and down. I'm the smartest giant in town." George came to a big squelchy bog. Beside the bog stood a dog who was howling. "What's the matter?" asked George. "It's this bog," said the dog. "I need to get across, but I keep getting stuck in the mud. I wish there was a safe, dry path." "Cheer up," said George, and he took off his smart belt. "It was squishing my tummy anyway," he said. As he laid it down over the bog, it made an excellent path. "Thank you," said the dog. The wind started to blow, but George didn't mind. He hopped on, singing to himself. "My tie is a scarf for a cold giraffe. My shirt's on a boat as a sail for a goat. My shoe is a house for a little white mouse. One of my socks is a bed for a fox. My belt helped the dog who was crossing a bog. but my trousers are falling and I'm the coldest giant in town. Suddenly, George felt sad and shivery and not at all smart. He stood on one foot and thought, I will have to go back to the shop and buy some more clothes, he decided. He turned around and hopped all the way back to the shop. But when he got there, it was closed. Oh no! Cried George, and he sank down onto the doorstep and a tear ran down his nose. He felt as sad as all the animals he had met on his way home. Then out of the corner of his eye, he saw a bag with something familiar poking out of the top. George took a closer look. My gown, he yelled. My dear old gown and sandals. George put them on. They felt wonderfully comfortable. I am the coziest giant in town, he cried, and he danced back home along the road. Outside his front door stood all the animals he had helped. They were carrying an enormous present. Come on, George, they said, open it. George untied the ribbon. Inside was a beautiful gold paper crown and a card. Look inside the card, George, said the animals. George put the crown on his head and opened the card. Inside it said, your tie is a scarf for a cold giraffe. Your shirt is your shirt's on a boat as a sail for a goat. Your shoe is a house for a little white mouse. One of your socks is a bed for a fox. Your belt helped the dog who was crossing a bog. So here is a very fine crown to go with the sandals and gown of the kindest giant in town. And that's our story. Did you enjoy it? I think it was a very beautiful and cute story. Now, since we are done with our story, let's play another game. Our game is a role play. Now we will be playing the story together. Now I will be dividing you all to 3 groups. Every group will have 6 students, and you guys will be drawing your roles from this box. Every 3 person will be the same role, and when you draw your role, I will be giving you a badge and you will be sticking it to your chest. Our game is the person who will be the George will be meeting his friends, the animals, and will be asking who they are, and those friends will answer either giraffe, goat, mouse, fox, or dog. And the George will remember the story and give them their clothing. I will be providing the clothings. Now, let's begin our game. After the game, this will be our end of the lesson.